very good morning to you. It is exactly 8:08, and it's so good to see you this morning. Hope you're doing well. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Your World. My name is Winnie Lubembe, and today the conversation is all about gender and skills development, and of course how we break the gap when it comes to the current labor market. Now, the need to properly equip women with relevant job skills to meet the demands of labor markets today and in the future is very urgent. And globally, women are significantly disadvantaged socially and economically, with over half the female population living below the poverty line of $3 a day, especially here in the country. And construction, for example, is one of the fastest growing sectors in the African continent, but one of the least gender inclusive, employing less than 3% of women. So the question is, how do we bridge this gap? That is what we want to find out from today's conversation. So if you're watching us, you know the question of the day, it's all about how do we bridge, the gender gap in the current labor market. Once again, how do we bridge the gender gap when it comes to the current labor market? And of course, today we'll be focusing mostly on construction. So how do we do that? Again, interact with us as always at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter, and tag me on Twitter, that is at Lubembe_Winnie. Let's get to understand how we bridge this gap and get, more women, in this industry and of course, or this sector. And of course, to help us with the conversation, we have Tatu Gatere, who's the CEO, Build Her. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming by today. And of course, we also have Millicent Ouma, who's a painting and decoration artisan. How are you doing today?
Thank you.
All right. Karibuni sana to both of you. And Tatu, let me just start with you. Looking at the Kenyan, let's start with the Kenyan, and then of course maybe we can go towards the global angle in terms of the women and in this field, especially when it comes to construction and everything that entails the same. Like we said, women are employed, like less than 3% of the women are employed. The biggest question is why? Why don't we see more women, getting into this sector?
I think the reason is on multiple levels.
Okay.
So one is social norms. Mm-hmm. It's not common to see women in construction.
All right.
And so socially, women don't think of it as the first option for a career. Mm-hmm. We know that STEM has a very low uptake with women, and we're trying to increase the numbers, but that's the reality.
Yeah.
The second is that women have, we face a lot when we go into any situation. Mm-hmm. For instance, you're walking down the street, a woman is more concerned about her body safety. Yep. She's aware of the physical environment. Mm-hmm. So women, if they don't see other women going to a TVET college, for instance, mm-hmm. it's very hard for her to walk in, one among 50, one among 100, mm-hmm. and sit down comfortably. Yeah. So women tend to avoid spaces where they could be objectified or stigmatized or discriminated against. Mm-hmm. And then if we look at the construction sector, it actually takes a lot of courage to be able to walk onto a job where you cannot see a representation and ask for work. Yeah. So that low representation, that low availability of mentors, the fact that programs do not specifically go out to try and recruit women, they all add up to having low numbers in construction.
And of course, all these factors will actually go into them, much in depth, just to see how then do we bridge this, because up until recently is when we're seeing more women sort of like embracing this, but still the numbers are relatively low. So then how do we increase that? And also you're actively involved in mentoring and building capacity building, especially when it comes to women in the construction sector. I'm really curious to find out why. Is there a story behind it? But I'll come back to you for that, Tatu. But of course, Millicent, for you, painting and decoration artisan, right? Can we just go back before this? What were you doing? How was life for you? And then, we'll talk about when you decided to embrace this sector.
Yeah, before I was a house manager.
All right.
Yeah, and being a house manager, it doesn't require any skill, doesn't require anything. It's a matter of just going, cleaning, laundry here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you see, as for me, I wanted something. I wanted a paper. I wanted a skill. I wanted just to have something that I can be doing. Yeah. I can be called somebody.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't just want to be a house manager. Yeah, it's a job, but as for me being there, I was not even trained to be doing that job. I'm just doing it just to keep up with the living. Yeah. Yeah, so up until
How long did you do? How long were you a manager, a house manager for?
For 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you said you wanted more. So you weren't necessarily satisfied with what you were doing at that time. You wanted more. You wanted a bit of a skill.
Yes.
You know, to sort of like enhance yourself and your living
Yes.
you know, standard. I'm just curious in terms of how much you were getting then versus how much you're getting now, if you're okay, that is, to disclose, so that we see, you know, we see the difference, and not necessarily money per se, but in terms of, you know, the skill and the satisfaction that you got at the end of the day from the job.
Let me say that the money I used to earn as a house manager a whole month, I can earn it now in just 1 week.
Look at that. Okay,
Yeah.
that is amazing. So your experience being a house manager, again, aside from the money itself, you know, did you feel satisfied at the end of the day? What were some of the challenges that maybe you went through and you decided, you know what, no, maybe this is not for me, I needed something more?
Yeah, financially felt like this is not enough. I have kids to take care of. I have a family. At the end of the day, you want to take care of yourself. The children are here. They want to go to school. Yeah, so I felt like this is just not enough. And also I wanted a career, a stable career. Yeah, I want to be called somebody. I want to be doing something. Yeah.
I like that. I like that. I'll come back to you in terms of then when did you make that shift, and how was that? You know, just making that shift into this construction sector, which, like we said, majority of the times we see a lot of men, you know, in the same. So why, first of all, the construction sector as compared to, you know, doing something else? But again, Tatu, what she's saying, that majority of the women, you'd find that, you know, either they would do these jobs that quote unquote are considered female centered, right? And what she's saying as well is that, you know, there's no skill required, there was nothing, I just needed to know how to clean and take care of the house and make sure everything is okay, the baby is okay, everybody is okay. That is all that is needed, but she needed more. Is this what you see a lot more with women who maybe come to you?
Yes, I think we're all, whether we're men or women, I think we're all looking for purpose.
True.
We're all looking to feel like we're doing more for ourselves, for our families, for our communities. And I think women struggle because society relies a lot on women for unpaid care work. And many women find fulfillment in that you're looking after the family, that you're looking after the home. But at the end of the day, as a human being, you also want to understand your goals, your dreams, and your contribution. We don't talk about this a lot in a traditional setting, but women also want to contribute to the direction of the home.
That's true.
You want to know that you're supporting, if you have a husband, if you have family members, you want to feel like you're unajenga nyumba, you're building your home.
Yes.
And so women are often looking for purpose. And the second thing is the women who come to us, the women I work with, tend to come from low-income communities. That means you're coming from a home where there was a lot of poverty, where people did not have a lot of opportunities. A lot of the women we work with, once they get children, they are really focused on sort of breaking out of that cycle and giving their children more. So how do you give your children more? It starts with education. It starts with a safe environment, a clean environment, one where they have access to proper sewer, proper water, proper schools, proper food. So women tend to want to give more than they were able to have. And to do that, then you have to work and earn a living.
That's true. That's true. All right. And for you, what is the story behind it? Because you know, actively mentoring and providing these services to these women. What is the story behind it?
So I was lucky enough to go to university abroad. I went to the US for university. And to everybody, most people in Kenya and most people in Africa, that's a beautiful opportunity. But when I went, the support I received was limited. So I had to work and go to school. I was working during the day from about 7:30 to 6 p.m. and I was going to school from 7:30 to like 10 p.m. in the evening. So I had a very hard time, especially the first years. That experience taught me that despite the way I was struggling, I felt so happy that I had a chance to get education. Because if I had stayed in Kenya, my parents at that point couldn't afford it.
All right.
And then the second thing is the US has different social issues than Kenya. similar, but ours are more economic first, theirs are more racial first.
All right.
So for the first time I was black. You know, Africans were not black, we're just
We
African,
don't, yeah.
or your ethnic group.
Yeah.
As a black person, all of a sudden I was put in a category of people that were less. And I wasn't really used to that. Just because of the way I look or the way where I've come from, I'm less. When I would come home from America and I would see people who grew up in disadvantaged neighborhoods, I started to see the similarity. Just because you're born in an environment where you're poor, it somehow defines you.
No.
Just because you don't speak proper English, somehow you're not as intelligent as other people who had access to school. That post-colonial mentality, I started to see all those discrepancies in our culture where we don't value, for instance, where we eat. Like bandas are not celebrated, but a nice restaurant is.
That's true.
Yet we all crave chapati and we all crave kienyeji food. We don't celebrate it.
Yeah.
So I think that for me was the change of a mentality where I wanted to provide solutions that created more equality. There's a movement called social justice. It means that you understand that where people come from is putting them down or inhibiting them. So you create more equal platforms for people to be valued, to have dignity. And so for me, that racial injustice led to social economic justice, which I fight for and I work for today.
Absolutely, and it's good to see that, you know, and empowering more women to get into, and especially these fields where, you know, it's usually considered, you know, male-dominated, women cannot do this, women, you know, hawana nguvu and all those things, and I would want to hear from you, Melissa, if you sometimes you get that, you know, where people look at you and think, "Ay, apana, but wewe ni mwanamke, are you sure you will be able to, you know, provide these services?" But aside from that, so then when did you decide to make a shift, and why construction? Did you try like other things, other sectors, and decided, you know what, let me just settle for this?
Yeah. Being a house manager, you go to different houses.
Yeah.
And you'd enter a house and you're like, wow, this house is so beautiful.
Yeah.
You also go to another one, and the houses are just different. So doing that job, I developed an interest in interior and design.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was like, wow, so how is this done? How did they do this painting and so forth?
Okay.
So doing a course in just painting and decorating is so expensive. And being a house manager with kids and a family, and having that low life, it's not that easy to raise that kind of money. So you can do that course.
Yeah.
But it was fortunate enough that I heard about BuildHer. That is the training institution I trained at. Yeah. So at that place, the training institution, they give you the training for free. Yeah, so I took that chance. Yeah, so I am doing painting and decorating. And if you look at that, it's more of interior and design. Yeah, so me as a painter and decorator, you'll be working hand in hand with an interior designer.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how was that? I mean, going through the course, and it's something that you sort of like had an interest in. I'm curious about when you were done and then got into the job market. How was that, especially your first job? Can you remember when was that?
Yes.
And how was the experience?
Yeah, I remember that was in April. No, that was May.
Okay.
Because I finished my course at April. So in May, I visited a site at Westlands.
All right.
Yeah, so when I went there, every other person is like, tumepata mgeni, and the men are there. Being a lady, they always spot you because they're always at throwing words at you. Tumeona kamtu amekuja. Yeah, so getting there, unaenda unaongea na foreman, and the foreman is like, are you sure you can do this? Yeah, so being at our training, you're being taught how to be confident, your communication skills. So when they feel like you cannot do this, and I'm like, okay, just give me a brush, just give me a roller, let me just try this and see if I can't do this. So I'm happy that anytime a guy or a foreman or a contractor tried me, they were like, yes, please
you
come
proved
in.
them wrong.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do you find yourself in a position where you had to sort of like convince them or work extra hard just to prove that, you know, you are skilled and you're really good at this job as compared to if it was anybody else?
Very true.
Okay.
For example, a site where you have to take a bucket of rangi up to stairs. You know, it's not that easy.
It's not, yeah.
It's not that easy. And you see the men are like so fast carrying it, going up.
Yeah.
And you're also a painter.
Yeah.
So you have to do that. So, yeah, you'll just have to take and nayo with them. Yeah, so
yes,
it's true that going there, you have to put some extra effort just to prove these guys that you can do this.
Yeah. There's a bit of a disparity there, you know. We're not beginning at as compared to you. Did you have moments where you were denied jobs just because? Yeah. All right. What is that like? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember there was a site I was in. I was working with the foreman, so the owner of the job was not around, so I worked for 2 weeks before the owner came.
All right.
So the foreman was so happy with my work na nilifanya kazi vizuri and everything was okay. So when the owner came, he was like, mwanamke anafanya nini hapa? Mimi hapa nataka wanawake hapa.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. So I talked to my foreman. So
did he say why? My
problem, shida yangu iko wapi? Why? So he was telling me amekata and I can't just do anything about it. So you just leave because I also risk my job.
Your job, yeah.
But I tried hard to know why this guy was so much into that, ataki kufanya kazi na wanawake. And she told me that history of a lady in a construction industry has not been so good.
All right.
Given that wale ambao wako pale, those who are there are they go after men. They're not serious about what they're doing.
Okay.
So when they go there, they distract the guys, so they don't work.
Okay.
So some employers feel like no, watafanya hawa wengine wasifanye kazi. Yeah. But I told him, but these people are just cleaners. They are here, they have nothing to do. You know, a cleaner will wait, you work, and then they just come and clean. So most of the time they're idle. Yeah, but being a fundi, you're always busy. Yeah. You have no time for that, for all those nonsense with the guys. Yeah, they throw back at you. They always want to talk, yeah, you see. But as long as you're somebody who is focused and knows what you want, it's not easy. Yeah, it's not easy. You enter into something else apart from what you're supposed to be doing.
I see that. I see that. And of course, we need to take a break. But when we come back, we'd want to understand more in terms of then, you know, this day-to-day challenges. But you're still here and you're still doing your job. So what is that motivation behind it? You know, what is the most challenging part of your job, and what would you tell, you know, so many women watching us and thinking, hey, Uko, Sitawes, and of course that we would also want to really get to demystify some of this myths and disparities that, you know, are there, especially when it comes to the construction sector, or, you know, jobs that might be considered so labor intensive that women are quote unquote not able to do that and even moving forward. But remember what we're asking you today, and that is what you know, do we do to just bridge that gender gap when it comes to the current labor you know, market. So we'll be sampling your feedback after the break. Stay with us. This is Your World.
Japo tuna tofauti,
kila moja wetu ana sauti. Stop the bus. Tuinuane,
ushirikiano wetu.
Tuinuane,
na ukaribu wetu. maishani tuinuane.
Crystal Rivers Residences, the future of fine living.
If you were somebody else, I would have made mincemeat out of you.
Well, you are right about that. I deserve it.
Well, you know what, Mickey? If you look at that woman again, that means you're not really in love with my sister. And if that's the case...
Wait, what? Are you suggesting that I break up with your sister?
No! No, 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 no!
Do you like it?
No, I don't think the children will like it, huh? That color looks
Why not?
very serious. Besides, the dress, it's like very, very short. It looks like you're dressed for a party. Don't you think so?
It had to be you.
New Sensodyne Repair and Protect with Deep Repair. It's a huge game changer for me. The science is pretty amazing because it really goes deep inside the tooth and repairs tooth sensitivity. It's going to improve the quality of my life in a big way.
When you look at the climate change, particularly more specifically if you look at Kenya, it is actually devastating. Kenya is facing one of its worst drought in maybe more than 40 years. There are some places in Kenya which have not seen any rain for the past 4 years. We hear livestock have died. Up to 2.5 million animals have died. And you can imagine the number of families that have been affected by that situation. Particularly, the pastoral communities who depend on livestock for their livelihood. They are now totally, completely destitute. They have no means of supporting themselves. And that is why you are finding that the relief food, people have to be given relief food, otherwise they actually perish. I, Wilfred Kiboro, will be attending the Kusi Festival of Ideas 2022. See you there.
The Nation e-paper has an exciting new platform that is easy to navigate, gives a premium reading experience, you have access to past editions, and so much more. Scan the QR for a free edition today. Enjoy the truth, anywhere, anytime.
Any group that is dubbed the Golden Generation, while flattering, is only being set up for failure. After all, the expectation is ultimate success. So when ultimate success is not achieved, the Golden Generation is perceived to have failed. Which is the case for Belgium after its World Cup exit. Its Golden Generation seen as tainted despite so many years of football excellence.
Crystal Rivers Residences, the future of fine living.
Welcome back. Glad you're still with us. And of course, the conversation continues as always, even during the break. And of course, today we just want to understand how do we bridge the gender gap, especially when it comes to the current labor market, but in areas where are mostly considered, male-dominated, labor-intensive. Women cannot do this, but, we have Millicent here today to just tell us, no, that is not the case. Women can actually do, anything, they wish to do. And even for the men as well, we're not just talking about women today, but even, the men who are in fields which are mostly considered female-dominated, there's some who are still there and doing amazing, amazing things. So the question is, how then do we bridge the gender gap in the current labor force, and especially in those areas where, are considered this is for women and this is for the men? How do we bridge that gap so that at the end of the day we have, like a skilled workforce in, whatever sector that we are in? And of course, we have Tatu Gatera, who's the CEO, Build Her, as well as Millicent Ouma, who is a painting and decoration artisan, sharing, her experience today, and of course, just helping us understand what that is like. But Tatu, very quickly, given what Millicent Millicent was talking about earlier on, there's a lot of disparity, there's a lot of stigma, discrimination even, you know, because you are a woman, or sometimes because you are a man. So it's like, no, this is not for you. You cannot do this. How do we bridge that? How do we bridge that? And you were sharing this even, you know, during the break, where, again, your background as an architect. You know, experience some of those things in the office as well. Do you want to share, like, maybe one or two things that really irked you in the office? Yeah.
And that's the thing, I think, with gender empowerment is people like to act like it's only in particular places. For a woman, it's everywhere. Yeah. When you go under the matatu, the way the guy is talking to you is very different than the way he's talking to the woman. So. For me, you know, my very first job, I remember it was an award given to the top students in the class.
All right.
So the two top performers were linked to their first internship. So we were a man and a woman. I reported to my first day of work, and the boss looks at me. He first tells the guy, follow me. He takes him to the main office space, gives him a desk, a computer. So I'm waiting eagerly. He comes back to me, and he shows me the reception desk. So I was like, okay, this is an award for the top students in architecture. I don't understand. So he's like, no. You know, you just look like you can handle reception work. So you just help me out, then I'll put you at the back in the main space. Okay. So I worked that job, and I was very fresh out of Kenya. I was very humble. Now I'm more outspoken. I can petition for my rights. So I worked for a month as a receptionist, yet I'm one of the top performing students. Yeah. And so after 1 month, I talked to my dad, and I was like, I don't understand this situation. What is it that made him look at me and say, you qualify as a receptionist? Not that there's anything wrong with a receptionist. Absolutely not. But I was studying to be an architect. Yeah. So I wrote my boss a letter because I was actually too shy at that point. And I just stated the fact, like, I don't understand what in my demeanor or my qualifications, or my studies or my grades would qualify me as a receptionist. Yeah. I'm qualifying to be an architect. And so since this doesn't seem suited to my my goals, I have to resign, and I would ask that you look at your hiring policies. Yeah. The guy was so embarrassed because I had written it down. I didn't know it was a tool, at least in the States, where you can take someone to court. Yeah. The next month, I was put now in the back to be an architect. Okay. And for me, that was so shocking, because if I hadn't spoken up, I would have stayed those 3 to 6 months of that employment, just working as a receptionist. Yeah. And it taught me a hard lesson, that when you look good, when you look like you're a well-maintained woman, people always think that you're suited for what they associate with that look. Yeah. So, like at Build, I find it very interesting when people come and see the women training, they look so different. They are fundis. Yeah. But home time, people are like, Allah, yes. We are women. We look beautiful. We like to look good. Yeah. But when we want to do something, we qualify for that role and we work hard. Yes.
Okay, and that's right. I think, I don't know, will it take time? Do you think it will take time before, you know, that perception about you're a woman, so you're suited to this, you're a man, you're so suited, you know, to do this kind of work? Do you think that perception, that notion will end any time soon?
From a social justice perspective and a feminist perspective, because I'm a feminist, I believe that spaces are better when men and women work together. Because sometimes I like listening to people talk about feminists in Kenya. I'm like, who have you met? Feminism is about us building together. Embracing one another. At least the type of feminism I was introduced to and the one I support. And so for me, people like me are not going to take time. We are demanding time. And we're not looking for special treatment. For instance, the women we train in Build Her as an organization, we equip them to be skilled workers. We're not asking you to hire people because they're women. Kuja usaidia hawa watu. No. Test them the way you test all your other fundis. Let them qualify. But if they do, give them jobs and pay them equally. And so I think for me, that's the fight, is to help women be qualified for roles they want, to help men be qualified for roles they want, and then hire equally and fairly. And I think to do that, it means occupy the spaces, meet the requirements, but don't wait to be invited. Go knock on those doors and ask, why am I not being invited in?
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about the kind of support that, again, women might need, and Millicent, I want to take this from you, and especially at workplaces. You talked about sometimes it's difficult. People look at you and think, you're a woman, you can't do this. You know, it's very labor intensive. There's some people who might look at you in a different way. You know, all those things that happen during, you know, day-to-day, you know, work. But aside from that, do you also get support and especially from the men, because again, you know, your job is mostly surrounded by the men. So do you get, you know, enough support from them as well?
Yes, it's very true. In as much as you'll find people who
very
don't want you,
yes,
you'll always find people who will just welcome you.
Yeah.
They feel like working with a woman is something so good, because number one, a woman inside is key to details.
Yes.
They always know
attention
what
to
they are
detail.
they're supposed to be doing. They are very attentive to details that are supposed to be done. So they feel like, okay, you are the woman who is here. We can do this. We've been looking for women around. We can't find them.
Yeah.
But now that you are here, we'll work with you. And they're always there to support. Yeah.
All
like
right.
a job last week I just finished from Zia. I was with a man who really appreciated my work.
Yeah.
And she feels like whatever you're doing is far much better to what another guy can be doing.
All right. So for someone who just tuned in and thinking, okay, but Melissa, what exactly do you do? We've talked about food day, we've talked about decoration, you know, and all those things. Would you just paint that picture for us so that someone really understands what your job entails? And when we talk about some of these challenges that you experience on a day-to-day basis, it's easier for them to understand.
Okay, I'm a painter and decorator. Yeah, so I do painting, interior and exterior.
Exterior, yeah.
Yeah, so I major mostly on flat paints.
Okay.
But I have also trained in textured paints, which I also do. Yeah, so challenges are there.
Yeah.
They are always, especially being a married woman. It's quite not easy balancing a family and job.
And jobs as
yeah, you
well.
have to work extra. You have to be up early enough. Like you don't just get enough sleep. As long as you have a purpose, sleep will always just slip away. It's not always there.
Yeah.
Because you're worried, okay, how am I going to leave my kids? Job is here waiting. Yeah, so balancing, it's a matter of balancing, and yes, we continue daily.
Yeah.
We always want, what is driving us most is the money. The money in construction is crazy.
Yes.
It's crazy because we want that money, but we can't find it enough outside here. If it's in construction, why not?
Why not go
yeah,
there?
we just take it and we continue.
All
and
right.
again, you just want something. You want a career. You have a purpose. You have a goal, which you always work towards.
Yeah.
So when you work towards a goal, all these challenges, you'll always see them
one
like
day at a time. Yeah, one day at a time, and
Yes.
take that. Okay, so how would you say your life changed, you know, before and after? How has life changed for you?
Life has changed big time because now I feel professional. Yeah, I feel I have a purpose. Then I was doing something just to keep up with the living.
Yeah.
But you have nothing. Even if you die today, there is nothing you fulfilled. There is nothing you did. There is nothing you left for your kids. Yeah. But now I feel like I'm working towards that. I'm aiming at somewhere. I don't just want to work in Kenya alone. But Africa is big and growing.
That's true.
I want to go to Uganda. I want to find myself in TZ. I want to find myself in Ghana.
Look at that.
Building something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Look at that. Hey, a bigger purpose. Okay. A bigger purpose. All right. And Tatu, for the women who are watching us today and thinking, so then how do I get there? Because like we said, looking from outside going in, you know, might think, it's very terrifying, because again, like we said, sometimes you have to work in groups as well, just for your own safety, and even the intensity of, you know, of the jobs in itself, you know, we might look at it and think, you know. So getting yourself there to embracing, you know, number one, not only STEM subjects, but also, you know, the sort of like labor market that is more labor intensive, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Where do we start from?
I mean, first of all, I'm just feeling so warm listening to Millicent, right? Because I just feel like, you know, construction is not for everybody.
True.
And I think you start there. If you're listening to Millicent and you feel, then you're identifying with the background she's talking about, how she feels today, there's something for you there. The second thing I think is courage, because that's something we teach at Build Up. When you come in, we say not all of you are going to like this, but number one you have to have is courage. Courage to believe in yourself, we all struggle with self-doubt, but don't wait for someone to believe in you. Do the work to build your confidence. You as a person have to be strong. Then the third thing I would say is listen to your interests. It's so shocking how many women come to us because they're passing sites and they're just fascinated. Hiyo ni kazi gani? Unaipata aje? Unaifanya aje? Like, there are women who are genuinely curious, but then there's no avenue for you. If you see that you're curious, go on the internet. Yes, we like to follow socialites, but also do research to help yourself. I always say part of the journey for me to get to a CEO was a lot of research. I don't have an MBA. I built everything I learned researching, working late to understand how do you run an organization? How do you support a team to improve over time? Research all those funny interests that come to your mind, and then look for a supportive environment. The way we approach women's empowerment is from recruitment. We recruit women from informal settlements. The reason it's free is because we are trying to help the most vulnerable women at the moment. It won't always be free. So we don't take women who have university degrees or who have access to education. So look for a partner who can support you. The second is look for the type of training. If you know you want to go into a type of training, don't be ignorant. Don't walk in and just take whatever training you're given. So you go ask other painters. You just go to a site, unangoja watu, you ask, hii kazi yenu, what does it need? Then make sure your training is giving you what you need. I see so many people, men or women, go to school. You don't question what you're learning. You don't question if it can get you where you want to go. And the last thing I would say, especially to young people, because people often think my passion is women. It's actually youth. I worked with youth for 3 years, and then I noticed women were getting left behind. And so for me, I would say to young people, it takes work. There's no shortcut. If you want something, you have to put in the hours.
I mean,
and that's it. So stop looking for shortcuts. Stop looking for quick money. Just, pursue what you want to do and negotiate. What are you willing to do and what are you willing not to do, and be honest about it. So whatever you choose, if you use those principles, I think you can get far.
All right. And Millicent, having worked, in the construction sector, how long now?
At least for 1 year.
1 year.
Yes.
All right. So take us through like the insights, what you've seen, what you'd want to see change. What is the future like, especially for the women, in the construction sector, and then we'll talk about, for the women who want to join. What is it that they need to know? Because now you're in there, you know the ins and outs. You know what the environment looks like. So what would you say?
The environment there, as we speak now, is not welcoming to women at all. Because first, we need changing rooms like women. You go in and you have to wait for all the guys to leave, so you sneak somewhere and change. We want somewhere, we want a safety place for us. Because at the end of the day, after being harassed there, you don't know who you'll run to. Because maybe it's the foreman. You see, so you don't know where you'll go to. In as much as you're being taught how to be safe there. But at some point, something can happen. Where will you go to? You see, we want a platform where, as women, it should be known that we are there. And anything entailing to a woman, their safety, how they carry on themselves, is in the construction industry. Because as we speak now, it's just meant for men. Like men, they just go, they don't care, they just pee anywhere. But you see, for a woman, I can't just go and start and just pee anywhere. So we want even lose, because it's always just one for everybody. What about me as a woman? If you go out, there are always ladies and gents. But if you enter a site, there is nothing like that. You have to wait for a man to come out. So you go and squat, which is also very dangerous for us. So we want an area where we are accommodated. We want to feel accommodated in the construction industry. And to anybody wants to come in, just prepare for anything.
For anything.
Anything. Just be courage. Courage is number one. Because it's takes courage for a woman to just enter a site and say, Mimi ni fundi, nipatie kazi. It's not easy. So it takes courage and also patience. Patience. That's all. Because you don't not just go there today and boom, you are a millionaire. yeah, it starts from scratch. Yeah. You build daily, and maybe in 3 or 4 or 5 years to come, you'll be somebody.
You never know.
Yeah, you can't just be somebody once.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and be ready to learn. Just open your mind to learning anything, because construction industry changes daily.
That's true.
Yeah, it grows daily.
Yeah.
So just have an open mind on learning and just wanting to know new things. Do research, as our tattoo said. Yeah, and you'll find yourself upkeeping to everything. And at the end of the day, you're up to your goal. That's true. Yeah. That's true.
And Tatu said, I mean, construction is not meant for everybody, right? So maybe someone is watching us and thinking, Susa, what else is there for me? What else is there for me? What is it that I need to know, you know, before getting into this? What are some of these other avenues that, you know, women and men as well, you know, can sort of like venture into and get skills from?
In terms of construction or otherwise?
Yeah, construction or otherwise.
Okay, so in construction, I think, number one, you know that it might be for you if you're curious about it, as I said.
Yeah.
If you like changing and dynamic environments, because things, as Millicent said, they're always changing, always growing.
Yeah.
If you're ready for a challenge, Yani, you're not happy giving yourself a limitation.
Yes.
You want to keep growing.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing we tell the women who come to the program is, this is a place where you can just continue growing, and as long as you're using your hands and practicing, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
How many places have that?
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's the interest. Also materials, different types of projects. Doing a house is different from an office.
I mean, I was reading a lady's story, 46, and she's making coffins.
Yes.
And if that was very, right? Because there's a lot of like taboo, hush.
Yes.
Don't talk about it.
Yes.
Because again, I think as Africans, as a people, at a Shaki Kwana coffin, it's like, where, no, we don't want to invite death in, you know, into this. But she's making that, and that was very fascinating.
Very fascinating.
Yeah.
And also what's interesting about that story is our women in the program range from 18 to 50. And we've seen different age groups have different directions and different attitudes. 18 to like 24 are people who have short attention span. Like they're just like, life is long. What am I going to do?
And fast,
Yes, then from like 25 to about 35, especially in the mtaa, because life is hard. They're washaona maisha. So they've seen a bit of life. They want a better solution, which is somewhere where Millicent sits.
Yes.
But then 35 to 50, for me, because I'm 41, so I find that age group very interesting. Mamas come with a mission. So that lady who went into coffin, she came in knowing she had had a very hard life and she was looking for a chance. The minute she got a chance, she was looking for a business area where there was not much competition. So she'd walk around Hamta after trading on the weekends to ask, where do I go? And she noticed coffins, they always have a surplus of orders and few workers. So she convinced not only herself but a few friends, and they went to look for work in this place, and now they're doing very well working for a coffin maker. She's thinking about how to grow her career in that business. And that's the beauty of construction, is there are so many avenues. Like Millicent was saying, she came because of interior design. I have no doubt she'll find her way to interior design if that's her vision. So look for areas that help you grow. Architecture for me was the same, because I went into architecture, I worked on social architecture, which is more about sustainable development. Then I went into commercial architecture. Then I went into community architecture, working in Kibera, building toilets, showers, schools, and I was beautiful projects, but for communities that you wouldn't think are done by architects. And then now I'm running an organization that trains women in construction. Look for careers that are just expansive. That would be my advice.
And I like that. And I'll come back to you in terms of then the policies, right? You know, what are some of the gaps that you identified, and what are some of the things that can be done to change or maybe implement some of these policies? Because like we always say here, we have the best policies in the country, but the implementation is where the problem is. And of course, Millicent, you know, alluded to some of those things, you know, conducive environment for the women, because again, you need a place to change. For example, you have a baby, you know, on site, where do you know, place your baby, and, you know, and all those things, just so that you don't miss out on one thing simply because, you know, uko job somewhere else. But what would you say, you know, to the government and, you know, everybody who's watching us and thinking, okay, how then do we make it best, you know, for the women to thrive in this sector, which is mostly considered male-dominated?
Yeah, I would say that they should give us enough chance, and also they should open more training institutions and welcome women in. They should also go out and just tell women, entice women, tell them, come, we can do this. As opposed to our social life, they feel like, no, women should not do this. But as the government, they can
come to you and ask you, so kunenda aje huko, do you think I can? Do you get women to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
They do, most of them. But me, one thing with me is that I don't discourage. I always want, even if there is a challenge there, nataka ukuje, feel the challenge, because maybe how you'll deal with the challenge is different from me.
That's true.
Maybe wewe utaifanya vizuri kuniliko. So I always want somebody, just come, let's do this. Yeah, and I'm always back to back.
I like that.
We can do this.
We can do
this. Because I don't want to go alone as a woman. I want others also to be in, so we can build something great. I know we can create circles. We can create something big, businesses, big associations. Just for women in construction.
I like that. All right, and you're talking about the government and how they can, you know, best support. I mean, how the government can best support women in the construction sector. So the policies, like you were saying, make it a bit favorable for the women, attract more women into the sector, and you know, we never know, we can get as many women, you know, out here. All right, and again, Tatu, for you, the policies.
Yes.
What would you say we are at, and especially in the construction sector, and you know, STEM in general, where are we at? What are some of the gaps that you've identified, and you know, how then do we close that gap?
So first of all, maybe I can explain our model. We work with women from informal settlements. We have community-based partners. Then we train women, and then we work with employer partners to link women to jobs. We work with the National Construction Authority. We work with different ministries to support our work at community level, training, and employer level. And then we also do advocacy. So I'll give a few examples from that range. Community level, the policies there for us are more programs to support women and women's transition to work. Construction is a long way from having daycare centers. But what we are lobbying for is a lot more basic. So at community level, daycare centers and more government, you know, coordinated, government-regulated daycare centers would be great. More support for women and women's experiences. A lot of women struggle with physical health problems as a result of childbirth because of lack of proper care. So giving women access to that, so that's policies, but it's also budgeting that is done to support those programs for women and implemented, as we said. At employer level, it's what are the quotas? Is there a regulation for how many, you know, percentage of women and men? Is there a regulation of what services should be provided for women? With the National Construction Authority, we have conversations because they're one of our partners supporting our work. We are really trying to advocate for separate toilets for men and women on site, or requirements for PPE, because PPE is also different for women. They are smaller. So giving a woman big PPE, you know, she can trip, it's not working for her. So what regulations are being put in place to support women's transition to work? We also do advocacy. So we just had a very big conference bringing together over almost 300 women, fundis in construction. The first Women Fundis in Construction conference.
Interesting.
Having the government come and speak to women on that platform was important. And in that platform, the government shared things like access to jobs and affordable housing projects. And we had different, from the Deputy Governor to the PS of Housing. And so what policies are being used or being created and being implemented to ensure that women access those opportunities on government projects or private projects. That's what we're asking for.
Absolutely. And we hope that we'll see this change as soon as possible, so we have more women you know, in the construction sector, and even in other fields, really, that, you know, most of the time we look at it and be like, or even for the men as well, you know, into these opportunities where they feel that is not for the men. But thank you. Unfortunately, we have to end the conversation right now. But Tatu Gatere, CEO of Build Her, as well as Millicent Uma, painting and decoration artisan, we say thank you. Thank you so much for coming by today and sharing, you know, your journey and your experience, Millicent, as well as Tatu, just giving us, you know, the tidbits on what we need to know
Thank you for
as far
having
as this industry is concerned, and you're welcome. All right, and of course we have to end it here as well. Thank you so much for staying with us. The conversation though continues online. That is on our Facebook, Twitter, as well as our YouTube pages. So let's go there and keep the conversation going. If you are thinking, okay, so where do I start? I'm pretty sure now you have all the insights that you need to have as far as getting into this field is concerned. So my name is Winnie Lubembe. Have yourselves a good one, and we'll see you soon right here on Your World. But until then, stay safe. Goodbye.